Today was Ali Abulaban's sentencing, and to kick things off, the judge had to listen to the defense ask for a mistrial from something that happened during the trial itself. They went on to explain that a question was asked from the state prosecutors that they felt shouldn't have been asked and that it was out of scope, so they wanted the mistrial. The judge went ahead and asked the state if they had any comments about it, which they did. The question was about something that had to do with discovery, so it was okay. But it was the state's last comments that set off an explosive reaction.
That was not his response. He had an outburst. He told me, is this some kind of jail informant that you're asking me about? That shows his guilt in the fact that he knows he made these statements in inmates in jail. And so it's perfectly reasonable for me to ask those questions.
Bullshit.
Yeah, you bullshit.
All right, let me make something clear right now.
I'm sorry, sir.
If there's any disturbance, you will be put outside. All right? That happens only once. It's happened now. It will not happen again. And that includes you, Mr. Abulaban. I don't want. Thank you.
Now, it's pretty funny that Ali immediately put up his hands and said that he didn't do anything and he didn't say anything. He was literally the first person to speak out in the courtroom against the state attorney, and he cussed her out. Now, if you listen close, you could hear somebody cussing right back at Ali after he was to the state prosecutor. Ali immediately turns around to stare. The person who cussed out Ali was Anna's sister. She had flown all the way from the Philippines just to be there for sentencing. The first person to say their victim impact statement was Anna's sister. And to start off with, she had a really hard time controlling herself.
I'm sorry, Herman.
What my mom did to you? What mom did to you? My mom did you what? Sorry, Your Honor. What did they do to you? They didn't do anything to you. You know Anna Marie is not gonna go cheat
right.
if you didn't cheat first.
All right. Ma'am, if you're not going to be able to control yourself,
Sorry, Your Honor.
I'm going to have to
But this-
excuse you. Mr. Abulaban,
this feeling is like-
please.
Make me sick.
After all the victim impact statements were read, Ali then turned and addressed the courtroom. He read a letter he had written.
Good morning, everyone. In a situation like this, there really isn't much a person can say that can help make things better. Losing a loved one to senseless and unnecessary violence isn't something that anyone should have to go through. And yet, it has happened. And here I am being the reason why multiple families have had to experience it. I can't say that I'm proud of that. Throughout this trial, many horrific things were displayed. And as we sat here for weeks having to endure some of the most disturbing audio recordings and video footage, I sat there in silence, listening, watching, and being reminded of the worst moments of my life. Having to hear myself say some of the most vile, shocking, and hateful things to the woman I love was not easy. In fact, I couldn't help but at times close my eyes and cover my ears, because that's not who I am. My behavior was disgusting and completely unacceptable. So when the time came for me to take the stand, I tried as best as I could to help make some sense of all this. To explain that everything you all saw in the last few months leading up to this incident was a horrific result of the tragic downfall to a once beautiful relationship. But even so, in those 3 days that I took the stand, I was able to share and say a lot of things, except the one thing I wanted to say the most. I am so incredibly sorry to each and every one of you who have been affected by this. I cannot imagine the pain that I've caused your families. I saw the look on all your faces and the tears in your eyes, and I hate that I'm the reason for it. On that day of October 21st, 2021, I was in the worst physical and mental state of my life. I was sick, suffering from an untreated severe mental illness that was combined with a crippling drug addiction, which put me in a state of a drug-induced psychosis. My response in that moment was an unintended, impulsive reaction against my better judgment to the discovery of Ray's romantic involvement with my wife. And for that, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that in that moment I was not mentally strong enough to control myself.
It all was seemingly going okay, as good as it was gonna get considering the situation, but then it took a drastic turn.
It is truly unfortunate that despite the compelling evidence that this was a crime of passion, somehow the jury still landed on this verdict, and they certainly wasted no time in doing so. The fact that I spent more time on the stand than the jury took to deliberate my fate is very concerning. In fact, the jury foreman himself told Fox 5 news reporters that a few of the jurors wanted to pick second degree, but were pressured not to by the rest of the jury. I think that speaks for itself, loud and clear, that reasonable doubt was intentionally overlooked, and that justice was not the motivating factor behind their decision. It was vengeance. And now I am left with no other option but to spend the rest of my life in prison. Death by incarceration. A very slow and drawn-out death sentence. That means that 50 years from now, should I still be alive, I would still not be considered for release. I don't think that's fair at all.
Him talking about how the juries got it wrong, I think, really left a bad taste in everybody's mouth. It seemed like he wasn't accepting responsibility and still wanting to be a free man, even so he killed 2 people. Before the judge started to do the official sentencing, he tore into Ali's character.
Shot him in the head in an attempt to kill. You don't shoot people in the head unless you want to kill them. And in front of Anna. That was deliberate. He wanted her to see it. Very cruel. He took photos immediately afterwards. Who does that? He calls his mother. He had 3 days on the stand to explain his actions. He explained them. And the jurors came up again with the only reasonable verdict, which is a first-degree verdict. The bottom line on this is I've watched him here during all of this time. He's a very talented actor. He is a very talented actor. When I saw the Scarface videos, it's as if when he committed these crimes, he became that persona of Scarface, of just the cold-blooded killing without remorse. Any tears that he's cried in this courtroom have been for himself. They are not for Ray and Anna. It's just, that's the reality. He fears the consequences, as he should, of his actions. But as he sits here today, I don't know if he's really sorry. I have serious reservations about it. I know he's sorry about the consequences of going to prison for the rest of his life. But I can't say that I think he's sorry for having killed these 2 innocent human beings. He's a very selfish person, as I think the jury saw. That was something that his character kind of came through, and we ask, who is Ali Abulaban? That's who he is. He's somebody that is only thinking about himself, and the idea of killing 2 innocent people doesn't disturb him.
I think he really hit the nail on the head when he said that Ali is very selfish. Even in this sentencing, he said sorry, but he really is also looking out for himself, hoping that he didn't have to spend life in prison, and was taking every opportunity to say he didn't want that and that he would like to have parole. When it was time for the judge to do the sentencing, he mostly addressed the courtroom. He was looking at the gallery a lot, probably at her friends and family. And that's when he said that Ali will never get out of prison. The entire courtroom erupted in cheers.
It's chilling. So the bottom line here is he will die in prison. He will never be a free man. He will take his last breath there. In
Ali immediately was furious and started mocking them, clapping himself. He threw something. He just literally freaked out. After going through this entire trial and all about his rage and him saying that was because of drugs and he did certain things because of drugs, clearly he has an anger problem and it still shows to this day. It was hard for me to tell if Ali's team is going to try to have an appeal. There is the chance of that, but I think it will be very unlikely. I hope for the friends of Anna and Rayburn that this gave them some sort of peace, and hopefully they can start healing and moving on with their lives.